Hi, welcome back to the Three Silver Strands with Marlena Gross, MJ Clements, and me, Irene Murphy. Today, we're going to talk about cooking and meal prep and Matthew 13:33. So I was going to go first, and I am basing my topic on this book. If you give a mouse a cookie. Well, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk. And when you give him a glass of milk, and so goes the story. It's just a wonderful story to read with your children. And along with this book, where it's got beautiful pictures and just an amazing adventure,
Hold it close to you. Can't see it.
an amazing adventure. She also has cookbooks to go with the book. The author is Laura Numeroff and illustrated by Felicia Bond. And she's got cookbooks as well. And the recipe I'm going to share is from the cookbook Mouse Cookies. And it's from Marlena's book, actually. And I have got the old fashioned oatmeal cookies. And you get these adorable little mouse cookies that I thought I'd have with my little mouse cup. And you can have a little tea party with or a milk party, of course, with your children. So the recipe is as follows: 1 cup of flour that you'll have your kids help you to do this with, a quarter teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of baking powder, teaspoon of cinnamon, rolled oats, not the instant kind, a half a teaspoon of ginger, cup of light brown sugar, a half a cup of raisins, 1 egg, quarter cup of vegetable oil, and a quarter cup of heavy cream. So your children can crack the eggs, measure the ingredients, mix it together, and make these little mouse cookies. Bake them for 10 to 12 minutes in a 375-degree Fahrenheit oven. And it's just a wonderful, fun activity. And now, of course, that concludes my baking session. Anyways, short but sweet. And we're off to Marlena with meal prep.
So how did those cookies taste?
Wow, they taste very good. My husband's had about 6 so far, and I'm going to have one right now.
They're so mousy.
They are mousy, aren't they?
Very good.
That's one of our kids' favorite books, and she's got an entire series of fantastic
Mm.
animals eating foods, and they're just so cute. Every one of them is just so cute. But those recipes are so simple and easy.
Really good.
Um, in that mouse cookie book, and yeah, they're just great. And we liked using those recipes for Christmas. The kids would make a bunch of different kinds and make up plates for friends with those recipes because they were so simple. It was great. It was absolutely great. So, all
We'll
right.
have the recipe down below, right?
I
Yeah.
will write the recipe down below. And you should just get the book though. I mean, it's got even got mouse cookies where your kids can shape the mouse cookies. But anyways, I didn't have all the ingredients, so this is what you got. What I did this morning, quick. Well, actually,
Perfect.
yeah.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
Yes.
Okay, so meal prepping. Um, it's fall, and this is when I do most of my meal prepping during the year. I don't do a lot of meal prepping for spring. I do salad prepping in summer, but in the fall and winter, I meal prep almost everything all the way through Christmas. And so my favorite tips today, I'm going to talk to you about meal prepping. Who else meal preps? Irene, MJ, do either one of you prep your food out ahead? Yeah. What's your favorite meal that you like to prep out?
I like to prep up soups.
MJ,
Stew.
what's yours? Oh, go ahead. Soups and stews. Sorry.
Yeah, I would have to agree because they taste better the second
Hmm.
day.
A lot of soups really do taste better the second day. I don't recommend it for like cream soups. Those don't usually
No,
taste better the
no,
second day,
I'm
but
thinking more on like
hearty.
chicken soup or
Yeah.
the leftovers from Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Okay, so the one thing I do the very most in the fall is I prep my meat ahead at least 1 or 2 weeks out. And so I will do 4 or 5 ground beef pounds of ground beef at a time with some onions and garlic, because generally whatever it's going into is going to want onions and garlic. So if I prep the meat first, I'll just have it cooking on the stove. I can have I've got a big pan that I can put 4 pounds of ground beef and 2 onions in, and it will cook all of that at the same time. So while that's going, I like to start the broiler. Now that the weather is cooling off, I can have my oven going at the same time. And so I will have the broiler going, and my first batch will be something like blackened chicken or lemon pepper chicken. And I will broil those because they don't take near as long, and have those come out as I'm doing my ground beef. If I'm smart, sometimes I'll put a roast in a crock pot. I have 2 crock pots, and I'll put some chicken in the other crock pot, and then start my meat on the stove, and then put my broiler going. And I can get all of my meat done for almost a month in just a few hours. And so that, like today, I'll be doing a whole bunch of meat in my own kitchen, and that's what I'll do. I'll put a roast in one crock pot, whether it's a pork roast or a beef roast. And today, I think I'm doing a beef roast and a pork roast today. And then I'll have my ground beef going, and then I'll be putting chicken into the broiler.
you can do
And
those
what's
all
great,
together in one day, like the same
I can
time.
do them all in one day. Yeah, because your crock pots are going to take hours, right? So if I was smart, I
Mhm.
would have done that before we started talking today, but I didn't have enough time. So I'll start those at noon, and I'll be able to shred my beef and my pork tonight after dinner. So then they just cook all day long, right? Then my ground beef, 4 pounds, it takes about 25 to 30 minutes. And in 30 minutes, I can have 1 or 2 sheets of broiled chicken go through the broiler at the same time. So then when the chicken comes out, it'll cool while I finish cooking up the ground beef. And then when it's cool, I will either freeze them solid for dinner later in the week, or I will slice them for salad toppings. Like I really like blackened chicken on my salad. And so if I slice it real thin, it'll give me that nice sliced chicken look, on top of your salad. And it gives me the protein I need quickly without having to thaw something out or look around and cook something later. So I really like to do that with my blackened chicken and the lemon pepper chicken, and I can get all of that done in a day. Then, when after dinner, I will shred the beef. Actually, my husband shreds it. Although I have a friend who will take her hand mixer and put it into the crock pot and shred the meat like that. It
Oh.
is the wildest thing I've ever seen, but it works. It works like nobody's business. It's just crazy. And the mixer blades, they turn and they just spread that meat out. Works fantastic on chicken. And so but Mike will usually shred my beef, and then I break it into a couple of different meals. I'll have barbecue beef sandwiches in one, and then the other one I will make into taco meat or meat for burritos. And then that way it can spread out. When you've got a big family, and I used to have 7 kids at home all at the same time. I never had all 9 in the house at the same time, but I had 7 kids at home at once. We'd have 9 people eating, not to mention anybody else who would come visit. Having those meals, um, having 2 or 3 of the ground barbecue beef in the freezer, I could feed my 7, or I could feed a couple of families with 2 of the meals, and it was just helpful to have it all prepared ahead. So I will do the pork roast will be shredded for barbecue pork, and then this time the beef will be shredded for tacos and burritos, that kind of thing. And we like to put shredded beef on potatoes, baked potatoes. So if we put the shredded beef on the baked potatoes, then that gives you the extra protein for a baked potato meal.
Can you just say again how you shred the beef?
So my husband does it with 2 forks. So he'll hold it with a fork and then he'll just shred it off. My friend uses a hand mixer and just puts it in the bowl with the meat, and it'll shred the meat. If the meat is soft enough, it'll shred
Right.
with a hand.
Supposed to flake.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Not put your cooked meat into a bowl mixer,
Blender, right? Yeah.
or a blender. It over cuts it, and then you just have mush meat.
Mush.
So
Okay.
you don't want. So the hand mixer is really the best way to do that. I have done it in the bowl mixer. If you do it on a low with a bread hook, it'll work better than if you use the whisk. It'll just destroy it. So don't do that.
So is there is there any
No.
suggestion on how to make it so that it is flaky? Like, do you do anything special? Like,
Okay.
Wait.
I would say
really?
the way my husband shreds it by hand is probably the best.
No, I mean when you
Just
cook it, when you go ahead and cook it, right?
Oh,
Is there anything that you do to the meat or is it
put
because
it
of
in
the
the crock
temperature?
pot.
What makes it so that it shreds? It's just because of the being in the slow cooker.
Yes. The slow cooker is really what helps that, because it's the time that helps it cook rather than the heat. So if you put it on a low setting for about 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours, you'll have a cooked roast, and it should be soft enough. The other thing is the cut of the meat does make a difference. So if you have let me think if I believe it's a chuck roast is going to give you.
Put it down below just to be sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look this up, you guys. One of the roasts will give you a better cut, and the other one will give you a better shred. And I'm not sure if it's a chuck or a rump, which one does that, but one of them gives you a better shred, and we will try to find that, put that below. But yes, it is the cut of meat that will do that more so. And chicken will just automatically shred. Once chicken's in the crock pot for 6 hours, there's no reason that it shouldn't shred, unless it just isn't cooked. That would be about it. And your flavors, of course, you can just change those up every time. You can put a roast and just pour a whole bottle of barbecue sauce over the top, and once it's shredded, it's done. Or you can do the same thing with chicken. I tend to cook them first and then put my sauces or stuff on later, and then I double bag them and I put them in the freezer marked. Always mark your food in the freezer. For those of you that don't know that, it's important because you won't remember what that is later. And make sure that it's double bagged so it doesn't get freezer burned, because some stuff falls to the bottom and then you won't see it again for a really long time. So, but it's a nice surprise when you do, because now I don't have to cook tonight. It's
As long as it's not 2 years later.
Yeah. So, and then my favorite also is soups. I like to do those in the crock pot. So when I prep my soups, I open the bag. I should have grabbed a bag for you guys. When you use a Ziploc bag, you can flip the edges over and it'll stand on the counter. And so I stand up a bunch of bags and I will do a fall soup. And so I will open a can of beans and then another can of beans and another can of beans. So I've got 3 bags, right? And then I'll chop all my carrots and I'll put a cup of carrots, cup of carrots, cup of carrots. And then I will chop all of my celery and put my celery into each bag. And when you do that, you can actually get through 3 meals at once. But now you're going to double bag it, you're going to mark it, put it in the freezer. And when you are ready, you can literally just pour that bag of soup into the crock pot. Now, it is recommended that you always thaw your food before putting it in the crock pot. I don't do that. I put frozen stuff directly in my crock pot because generally I'm not putting it into a hot crock pot. I'm putting it into a cold pot. And so I don't worry about it cracking. But I'm also not worried because if I bust it, I'm just going to go buy a new one. So it's recommended by crock pot that you thaw your frozen items first and put those in once they're thawed. So if you pull it out the night before and put it in the fridge, it'll be ready by morning. Even if it's not fully thawed, it'll still be okay to put into the crock pot that way. And then you can go ahead and put it on low and it'll cook all day. Your house smells amazing. Family comes home after work or after football practice. Everybody's exhausted. Nobody wants to cook. It's already in the crock pot that morning, and now it's ready for dinner when you come home, and you don't have to think about it. So meal prepping those soups, especially in the fall and the winter when it's so cold, right? Who wants to come in? You're freezing. It's been a big snowstorm. Not now where I'm at, thank you God, but where I used to live, it was so cold. And we would come home, and having that crock pot ready to go was absolutely crucial because we couldn't function with the amount of cold we had to deal with. And so by being able to have the kitchens warmed up, it smells really good, the food's ready to go, you just grab some bowls and serve everybody their soup. It was so much easier to get through those busy evenings in that colder weather. So I will prep out sometimes weeks worth of soups ahead, and that'll last me 2 or 3 months, and then I ready to go through that really busy season, especially with all
Nice.
the holidays up. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Maybe I'll surprise my husband and I'll have a whole slew of stuff all ready to go.
Great ideas.
One of these days I will do a video watching me do all my meat prep. But
Oh, very
for
good.
now,
That'd be fun.
I don't have
that's
a
how I do it.
I don't have a crock pot though. I have an Instapot. So and it has all the different settings for
Yeah.
So you could do the same thing. So it just isn't going to take you as long, right? So put
yeah.
your roast into your Instapot while you're cooking on the stove, and when it's done, and now it's going to cool. It's But in the meantime, while it's cooking and cooling, you're cooking your ground beef on the stove. You're putting some chicken in the oven, and it's all still going. So it's the same idea. It's just not going to take as long as it will for me because I'm using crock pot. But
Yeah.
because my family is so big, the big crock pots, I've got a 5 quart and I think a 7 quart crock pots. They're big.
Mhm.
I fill those
Yeah.
and I do all of that cooking at once. And it's just a
Yeah.
little easier. Plus, I
Yeah.
don't like shredding the meat. And so when Mike comes home, he can shred all that meat for me after I fed him a really hearty meal. And he's totally willing to shred the meat for me. So
Cool.
I'm kind of out
Nice.
of that. So,
Hmm.
okay. So, MJ, what do you have
Yes.
for us today?
So I'm gonna hold off on that scripture for the next time we get together. I don't know, do we know what our topics are going to be for the next episode? That way we can kind of no, okay.
I don't think we've talked about
Maybe
it
we
yet.
can think about that for our next time. We can have a little heads up. That way they can look forward to whatever it is that we're going to be doing. Just a thought. I have all sorts of little thoughts like that. But so I'm skipping out on that Matthew 13:33. However, feel free to go and check it out and ponder it. And it has to do with the woman and the dough with the yeast. But I am going to go back to what we had talked about last time. And I'm just going to read this one scripture and I'm going to read a children's story.
Oh,
If that's okay with you guys.
yes.
Yep.
So let me see if I can find it. The kingdom of heaven is like what happens when a farmer plants a mustard seed in a field. Although it is the smallest of all seeds, it grows larger than any garden plant and becomes a tree. Birds even come and nest on its branches. That is Matthew 13:31. Such a lovely description of a tree. Okay. So this is Amazee's Adventures series, a special gift. You guys ready? Hopefully I can do this. Okay. I don't see it under my bed. I don't see it in my toy box. I just can't find it anywhere, Amazee cried. Her pillow went flying as she looked underneath. If only it was there, she cried with a squeak. Every item was tossed as her toys danced about. She threw up her hands. Ugh, she would shout. Mom'll be mad if she knew what I did. Amazee flopped down on her favorite toy squid. No sooner she flopped, she flew right up straight. I must look for it further before it's too late. She flew down the stairs like a hummingbird in flight. The kitchen, she squealed with all of her might. She zoomed through the living room like lightning that flashed, and into the kitchen she made a dash. It just has to be here, she said with high hopes in her voice. But as she glanced at the kitchen, she knew she had no choice. The food bucket, she fretted. Where else could it be? Every cupboard door open, every item lifted to see. She fell to her knees as she thought she lost it for sure. Oh, please don't let it be here, she said as she slowly opened the door. The smell, it's atrocious, a big word she had learned. I can hardly stand it, she said as she squirmed. She pushed back her sleeve and was ready to find her most precious of gifts, unique of its kind. Okay, here it goes. She inhaled real deep and then pinched her nose. Amazee, her mother said as she leaned over her back. Amazee spun around to see her. I was looking for a snack. A snack, you say? Sure it was that? No, she said sadly, and there she sat. Mother held out her hand. Looking for this as you search high and low? Yes, ma'am, it is, she answered as she looked down real slow. I misplaced it, that's all, Amazee tried to explain. She fumbled her words to say it again. I set it down and I couldn't remember where. Amazee was crying in such despair. Amazee, Amazee, her mother had shrugged. She crouched down beside her and the two of them hugged. I see that you care with the search you had here, she replied with a squeeze, gently giving her the seeds. My seeds, she explained as she popped up with cheer. I thought they were lost forever, she feared. Now, Amazee, I'm sure you know now what to do with this gift. Mother left the room calmly in one swooping swift. 1, 2, 3, 4. Her fingers closed up tight. What do I do with you? Amazee thought to herself that night. I know, as she ran to her drawer full of socks. On top of her dresser laid a small shoebox. I'll place you in here, all safe and sound as can be. She covered it gently with her old blankie. Now rest, little seeds. You'll do just fine here. She patted the blankie to say, I'll be right here. Morning arose. It was the first light of day. Good morning, little seeds, she smiled, brushing the blankie away. My seeds! Oh no, how could it be? Holding the box, she fell to her knees. The seeds were looking dry and needed a quench, so she grabbed the box and placed it on her bench. Hold on, little seeds, you'll be all right. She tapped her forehead to think with all her might. What to do? What to do? She paced through her room. Aha! She grabbed the little seeds, and out the door she would zoom. She flew down the stairway, jumping off the last step, landing straight in the arms of her father. Oh, gotta run. She wouldn't be kept. Good morning, Amazee. Do you need a helping hand? No, I've got a plan. She continued on through the kitchen and out the door she flew. I better have a plan. My seeds are looking blue. Into the shed like a whirlwind of air. She looked through it all with such despair. Just then the door slowly opened real wide, and there stood her father, all wide-eyed. Amazee, What have you done? What is this urgency, my little one? Oh, Daddy, it's my seed. I think I've killed them, like a bad weed. Cried in his arms. She knew not what to do. She looked up at him without hope. It's through. Oh, my sweet Amazee, you just take heart. Take care of your little seeds. Let's start. He grabbed a small container and filled it with dirt. He held out his hand for the little seed she called Squirt. A seed must die, Amazee, before it can live. We'll nurture it with water and sunshine to give. This will soon sprout, just you wait and see. This seed you call Squirt will no longer be a seed. And would you know it, just as he said, the little seed sprouted on its little dirt bed. My seed is no longer my little Squirt. You have come out to greet me. You pushed through that dirt. I can hardly believe it, but I know it's true. My mom always told me to just be you. So here you are, little Squirt, who has changed no longer a seed, but a flower to name. The
Wow.
end.
Beautiful, MJ.
Oh, thank you, Irene.
That's
Very
really,
Squirt.
thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of somewhat appropriate with the last few episodes that we've had. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
perfect. Perfect for fall.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, for meeting today and sharing your wisdom and
Been fun.
all the things that you do.
Enjoy each other's company, and I hope we've blessed others that are watching. And spread the word, like us, make a
Yeah.
comment, and share.
Yes, that's for sure. Thank you.
Blessings to you all.
See you the next time. Bye.